Welcome to the All About You podcast. My name is Sheila and I am your host. In this podcast, I invite people to tell their stories of their travels, hobbies and passions. These podcasts are also now available on my All About You YouTube channel. So if you have a story to tell, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story. Welcome to another conversation on the All About You podcast. And today my guest is Lynette Carveth, a singer and a singing teacher. So today we are talking all things singing and music. So Lynette, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you for inviting me.
I have to say, introduction, we did say you are a singer, but also you are a singing teacher.
Yes.
Okay,
right.
So we're going to come on to that as well as we get into the podcast. So my first question, Lynette, when did you first discover music and the ability or the love of singing?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have been born and brought up in Cornwall, which is rich in a music tradition. So my dad sang with male voice choirs and we all played in a local brass band. And I think ever since I was tiny, I'd go and see concerts and performances a lot, all types of music as well. And then my dad used to be a member of the Amateur Operatic Dramatic Society. So I think the first thing that really got me really passionate about performing was going to see the musicals. My dad was in great, like, Guys and Dolls, so many Sweet Charity, all the classics of that time. And I loved it. So I think I did my first musical when I was quite young. I was in The Sound of Music and The King and I. That plus learning piano and cornet. Always appreciate my parents supported me a lot in my music and ballet classes. So I guess I had no choice really but to go on and make a profession from it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is a brilliant start with your dad, always music in the house, ballet classes. Let's talk about your career then. So when did you decide, okay, I really want to take this seriously?
I think probably from age 0. I wasn't really good at school and I think it was just going to be that or nothing really. No, I always loved music. I always wanted to be on the stage. So when I was around 16, I got a scholarship to go to a private school, which was amazing because I did my first opera there. Had a chance of singing with the first orchestra. I was 16, 17. Having that experience was just amazing. It was a fantastic school, Truro School. And then I got a place at the Royal Academy of Music. So I did 3 years there, studied opera and the jazz course as well. So I'm also quite open-minded in what I do. And it kind of went from there, really. I just knew it was always what I wanted to do. Though I suppose my doubts are always knowing exactly what I wanted to do within the music world. I was thrown into opera. My teachers thought opera was going to be my thing. And I love opera. I'm passionate about opera. But I'm also a little bit sad that perhaps I didn't discover other things earlier on because my last professional work was actually singing French Baroque music. I'd like to have learned that earlier in my career. I think I would have probably worked much more in that field. And I also love contemporary music. So I think I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades, really.
But that's amazing. I always wonder with opera because, for example, if you're singing in Italian, for example, and let's say you really don't know Italian, how do you go about singing opera in Italian if you don't know the Italian language? Do you just learn the Italian to actually do the opera, or do you have a bit of a background knowledge as well?
Well, we do study Italian as part of studying opera. It's quite an important part. And also French and German, because I'm just as likely to be singing in French or German. But I was in the chorus of the Teatro Real, the Madrid Opera House, for 12 years. So during those 12 years, we also did operas in Russian and Finnish, Czech. And of course, there's no way you can learn those languages. But we had experts that would come in and train us in the language. And we'd have the phonetics. And we just spent hours and hours and hours listening to recordings and memorizing. Boris Godunov, that's an opera that goes on forever. And I just learnt the words phonetically. But funny, as soon as I walked off stage, I'd completely forgotten them. So somehow they stayed in my brain when I needed them. But when the opera was over, they were gone.
I mean, that's just amazing, isn't it? Once you get to a certain level and it's obvious you have the ability and the talent, that's when the machine kicks in with, okay, you've proved yourself, you're then going to the schools of music, and that's when you really start getting the top teachers and the voice training, for example. What was it like being on stage doing opera? I mean, did you love the singing? Was it the costumes, the lights? What about your nerves? Did you get nervous before every performance?
No, I think probably the most wonderful thing about being in the Teatro Real chorus was the camaraderie. I loved working with this amazing group of people with such talent and such passion for what we did. It was just amazing. We were very, very well prepared. We rehearsed 4 hours every day. We had some of the world's best musical directors and scene directors. So we felt completely confident by the time the first performance came. The only doubts might have been sometimes the productions were a little bit strange, and we were made to wear some very uncomfortable costumes or work with scenery that was really bizarre. And that would often worry me more than the actual performance, whether you drop or fall over something. Or the productions are getting more and more and more elaborate, really unusual, so to speak. I've done traditional opera, but with like a nuclear bomb hanging above my head and things like that, which is a little bit off-putting.
I mean, I guess this is technology, isn't it? Technology and special effects are coming into something like opera now, whereas before it was sort of moving scenery.
Yeah. But I think also people used to like traditional opera. If you go and see an opera that was set in the 16th century, you'd have 16th century costumes and 16th century scenery, and nowadays you have no idea what you're going to get. You might get, I don't know, Tosca, which was supposed to be set in the Roman period. Pretty amazing performance I did actually with the Mafia, 30s Mafia. That was one that worked. I also saw a production of Tosca with people wearing dustbin bags. So it's getting more and more bizarre. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I guess they're taking a traditional story and sort of trying to drag it into a more up-to-date and maybe to appeal to more people. And okay, so we've got to change the costumes, we've got to change the scenery and special effects. But yeah,
I think so. People feel they need to make their mark every time and bring something fresh to it, as opera's been around for so long and so many different productions. But going back to your question of whether I was nervous on stage, no, it was never the singing. It was often what they were expecting us to do when we got on there that was more stressful.
All the moving parts, what's going to fall on you, or what prop isn't going to be there when you need it.
Yeah, the movement and so on, yeah. It didn't always work with the singing. Some of the directors we had were actually film directors, so they didn't know opera, but they were there because they had a reputation as a film director or so on. And you might just be put in a situation that was a little bit uncomfortable. But most of the time it was amazing. What a fantastic experience. 12 years I was in the Real.
Wow. So when you look back, do you have one particular part in an opera that you just thought, this is just my favourite part, or this is just me, this is where I can really show my talent? Can you pick one?
I have amazing memories of doing a production of I Pagliacci with the director Giancarlo Dal Monaco. I love the story, and the music is incredible. And it was set in around 1930s in a small village, so the costumes were quite interesting. It was a fantastic production, and I loved it. And there was a lot of dancing, a lot of movement, lots of comedy. Giancarlo Dal Monaco's, for me, one of the best opera directors there is. And then I was really lucky enough to perform the principal role of Nedda Pagliacci in Moncloa. So it was nice to do it as a choral member and then have the chance to sing it as a principal. So I have really fond memories of that opera.
Amazing. We've talked about your initial love of music and with your family and going to drama school. We've talked about some of your career in opera. We also said you are a singing teacher. When did you do the crossover from working in opera to think, okay, I want to sort of do something on my own now? How did that come about?
I think when it comes to teaching, practically everybody who goes into performing is at one point going to be teaching. It goes hand in hand. It's very, very rare that you'll find someone who hasn't done teaching as well. I've always taught, and I really like singing and teaching more than groups. And I worked with some really amazing people, everything from small children. I've had some really interesting cases. I had a very lovely man who was a diplomat who decided he wanted to become a clergyman. So he needed to sing the mass, and he couldn't sing a note, bless him, couldn't sing a note. We spent literally a whole year just pitching the note until he could sing it. But he had the patience, and at the end of his classes, he actually sang a mass, and I felt really proud of that. He's now a very high up the Church of England ladder, and he sings regularly with Westminster Cathedral Choir or something. I don't know.
Wow, so you put that down as one of your good success stories.
No, it's him. He was determined to do it, but it was exciting for me to see that progress. I've also worked with people who've prepared for auditions to go into major choirs or to go into music schools. And I've worked with professionals preparing roles. I've worked with people who are now singing with the Radio Televisión choir in Madrid. But I love everything. I've also taught a 92-year-old lady. She was singing right up until she was 92. So it's amazing to see how that singing can impact people's lives in such a wonderful way.
I mean, I've got to ask this question. Do you think with training everybody can sing to a certain level? You think that's possible?
Everybody can sing because we're born with the mechanism to sing. It should be as natural as walking or breathing. We have that mechanism, we have that ability to sing. And if you listen to babies, when they howl, they really howl. They know how to use their lungs. They know how to use their voices. I think if we can't sing, it's often because of social inhibitions. Or, sadly, I think more and more so, we're losing our ability to listen to ourselves and listen to around us accurately. So if you can't sing, it's quite often more you're listening than your physical ability not to sing. Occasionally, of course, people have their voices damaged through smoking or whatever causes, but I think everybody should be able to sing, and I encourage people to sing, because I think if you can get rid of your inhibitions and you just go out there and enjoy singing, you find your voice. And whether you're going to sing a great operatic aria or whether you're just going to have fun singing in a karaoke bar, I think everybody should be out there singing, and it's a fantastic gift that we're given and we don't use it enough anymore. And it's also really good for our health. And if we could just throw off this social inhibition we have of, I can't sing, or I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. If we just went out there and did it, I think we'd find that most of us could sing.
As you say, music, any form, gives so much joy. Music is incredibly emotional. We can hear a piece of music and it will transport us back decades to an occasion or a person. Over the last probably couple of decades now, we've seen a lot of these TV programs where people audition for programs and they're looking to create the latest girl group, the latest boy band. It all seems to be very clinical and manufactured now. What's your take on all that, Lynette?
That's a really good question, and it's a question that's becoming more and more complicated for people trying to find a profession in not only in music. I think it's happening in many fields. Instant success, instant expertise. You see it everywhere. You see people setting up their own schools in therapy. I mean, and you shouldn't really be messing with things like that unless you actually know how to be a therapist. I find things like that quite scary. And the singing teaching, you're actually dealing with a physical mechanism. You should not be teaching singing unless you know what you're doing. Likewise, you shouldn't be out having a professional career as a singer until you know how your voice really works. But what you see is so many people sing and then they get nodules and within no time they're not able to sing again, which is really sad, because many of these people did have the talent and did have the skill to sing, but were totally exploited by this kind of program that just gives them an instant fame, gets what they can from them, and then moves on to the next one.
I think that's it, isn't it? Because they then find somebody, okay, this person is going to have a certain lifespan before their sell-by date is up, and they're going to work this person, work. Yeah. And I guess it's that the person doesn't enjoy it, then starts to have health problems. That leads to, like, as you say, the nodules, which can absolutely stop someone's career dead.
I think it's actually, you need to know your voice very, very well to make a career. I mean, imagine you're on a plane, you're flying 5 hours to get to another country, you have a sound check, you have a quick rehearsal with a band, you have a performance that night, you sleep at 3 a.m, you're up the next day, you're on a flight, you're going somewhere else. If you live your life like that, you need to know how your voice works. You need to care for your voice. And if you don't have a really sound technique, it's not going to last. It's very sad to see that. I think the clever singers, Adele, for example, she went through that when she had problems with her voice, but she's smart. So she stepped back and she was able to take the time and she was able to reassess her career. And now she's in control of her career because she's talented enough and popular enough that she's able to do that. So people like that are able to escape. But I think it's very sad when you see other people that have just been exploited to that extent.
Over the last few decades, there are certain voices to me that really stand out. One of the earliest I thought was just the amazing voice of Karen Carpenter. She had just the most beautiful voice, and I don't think I've ever come across a singer has got a voice like Karen Carpenter. Unfortunately, she had health problems and her life was cut short incredibly quickly. Yeah. Amy Winehouse, again, an incredible voice, very, very talented. And another voice, which Heather Small of M People. Do you remember Heather Small? No. Very distinct voice.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, if you heard it, I'm sure you'd recognise it. Luckily, I think she's okay.
Yeah.
But it's very sad when you get these 1 in a billion voices that are so distinct and their lives are cut incredibly short, whether that's through their lifestyle of, as you say, flying, concerts, sound check. You know, they're not in control of their life and people are trying to make as much money from them as they can. It's just so sad.
I think Karen Carpenter, that sort of era was slightly different. And if you go back further, you have people like Judy Garland, Edith Piaf, and all these amazing performers. But I wouldn't say they were great singers, but more great performers. Is the way that they were able to interpret the song through the emotion and through their personality was really the impact, I think. And for them to do that, I think they kind of suffered for it. It was a very difficult. Well, I think maybe they suffered, and that's why their art was so amazing. It's kind of a circular thing, isn't it? Billie Holiday, go back even further. These people really, really suffered. They had really hard lives, and they were able to express themselves through the music. That's the power that they had. And so with or without the singing, I think probably their lives would have been complicated and sad anyway. One fed off the other, really. Very sad. But you don't get those kind of singers so much anymore, you know.
I mean, it's a tough world out there now, isn't it? Because now with technology, as you say, these massive concerts, and it's just go, 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 let's make the money, as many concerts, you know, a world tour, which is very different if we go back to the era, as you're saying, Edith Piaf, going back, that just didn't happen then. It's very much sort of a sausage machine now, and okay, this person's done, we've got the next one all lined up and queued, ready to go. One thing I was going to say to you, I mean, I'm sure you remember the story of Susan Boyle off of the British TV. Yeah. She came onto the stage, you sort of had this middle-aged woman, and she came out with this incredible voice, and it just blew everybody's socks off. In your opinion as a singing teacher, how often does that happen?
I don't know enough about Susan Boyle to know what else she did.
Bit of amateur dramatics and stuff.
But I mean, song-wise, whether she had a lot of songs or whether that was just her one big song, that I don't know her.
Yeah, I mean, I think she sort of used to sing in sort of working men's clubs and that sort of thing, but it was just literally a hobby. I don't think she was taking anything seriously.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, you know, we've all watched that video on YouTube time and time again where she walks out and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And then this just amazing voice comes out and she goes on to have this incredible career.
Yeah.
Do you think there are people that have these 1 in a million voices?
Well, I come from the classical training world, and it kind of makes me sad that we're depending more and more and more on technology. And I think the voice has this incredible capacity to do so much. I mean, you've got 3.5 octave range in a voice. You can sing. You can fill a theatre with 1,000 people without the use of a microphone. We've got an incredible variety of colours and sounds that the voice can produce. I think very few people are really, really using it to its full ability now. People can go on and impress you with one song or an amazing emotional performance. And that's a completely different thing. I'm not knocking that. I think that's a completely different skill. The ability to share a message with an audience is hugely powerful. But as singing, as a voice, separating the voice from performing, I think we don't really exploit it at all anymore. And that kind of makes me sad, because that's the power that we've been given, is our voice, without microphones, without anything else. We don't use it. I hope that people appreciate what we have again, because very few people are coming to me saying they want to sing classical. Everyone wants to sing pop music, which is great. It's fine. I have no problem, like I said. But it's limiting your voice. You know, you don't need a great range. Interpretation's there. It's the interpretation that rather than the voice. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment. Really, I'd like people more to actually get out there and really, really sing. You know?
I think one of the fun things I always think, you know, we all sing in the car, we sing at home, we sing in the shower. And you've got songs that you're singing along to, maybe your favourite artist, or you just like the song. And all of a sudden you come across the lyrics for that song and you think, oh, okay, that's not exactly what I've been singing for the last 20 years, which is always a bit of a revelation. But it's finding what songs, I mean, I love a bit of karaoke, I have to say. And you think, I really love this song, I sing at home to it. When we sing to ourselves, is that completely different to what everybody else hears? I guess it is. We think we're doing okay, but if we hear ourselves singing on someone's recorded your karaoke or something, we just think, oh my God, dear God, why did I pick that song? And we've all been to karaoke bars and everybody, oh, let's do Whitney Houston or The Power of Love or these great big power ballads. If you can carry that off, phenomenal. But there's probably not many people that can do that. So getting back to karaoke, how do you find a song that is sort of in your range? Because we know how it feels if you're singing and it's not in your range. You can feel that pain in your vocal cords straight away. How do we find a song that we think, okay, if I am going to do karaoke, I think I can actually not make a complete mess of this because it's in my range, I've learnt the lyrics, no one's going to boo you off stage, oh yeah, that was okay. How do we go about finding that song?
Well, let's first of all just remember karaoke's fun, and it's nothing but fun. And it's going back to my idea that everybody should just get up there and sing and not have inhibitions and just have a really good time. So if you find a song that you like singing, go for it. Nowadays, if you had a song you liked, it wasn't comfortable, maybe it was too low or too high. Nowadays, you can just go online, you can probably find it in the right key. So it's not the same as going to a bar and just asking for a song, but nowadays people are actually taking along their own backing vocals and using them, because you can literally sing any song if it's fun, but just finding that right key, whether it's too low or too high. So it's just adapting it to you and then having fun. You're not going to sound like Whitney Houston. You're not going to sound like Mariah Carey, whoever you want to sound like. Who cares? You're you having fun. And I think that's really what singing has to be. We have to remember that first of all. You should just have fun with it. Simple as that. It's
interesting, the point, isn't it? Because often you'll find with karaoke, you've plucked up the courage, you've had a couple of drinks and you're ready to go, and then somebody comes along who is phenomenal, and then your name is called and you go, oh my God, why couldn't I have followed the pub singer? Why have I got to follow the girl that has done this amazing power ballad and she's done an amazing job? That's also just what happens to me.
Well, you shouldn't really even be thinking that. You should just be thinking, this is me, this is what I'm going to do, this is my voice, this is how I am. And that's it should be as simple as that.
Just style it out. Just
have fun. And if you're up there performing and enjoying yourself, people will enjoy it too. The more nervous, the more stressful you are, the more the audience will respond to that as well.
Yeah, and it's going to come out in your voice, I guess, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think karaoke, you just got to have fun and not analyse it too much, you know, just have fun.
It's always funny when you see people in careers still in their sort of business suits and they all go out to a karaoke bar, whereas we tend to sort of think of it a bit as a night out, don't we? But it's good fun. So let's go back to your career then. Is there any part that you would have thought, I would love to have sung that or played that part?
I've loved everything I've done. I think I've been really, really, really lucky. One of the things living in Spain that perhaps wouldn't be happening if I was in the UK would be, because the level is so high in the UK, I would have had to have specialised. I would have had to have chosen a career path, a solid career path. Here, I've been really, really lucky because I've done everything. I've sung Renaissance music in monastery in Avila in winter with the snow on the ground with candles. It's just amazing. And I've sung in the Granada, in the Alhambra. I've sung Mahler's 8th Symphony with, I think, a chorus of, I can't remember how many hundreds of people. I've just done so many incredible things. I'm so fortunate. I can't say there's anything that I wouldn't have liked otherwise. Except, as I said at the very beginning, if I'd known about French Baroque, if I'd opened up my mind more when I was in early 20s, I might have had a more decisive path to have followed. But then, like I've just contradicted, I've said I've done everything, and that's been amazing too. So I don't know.
I mean, it's lovely to hear that you said you've been incredibly lucky. You've sung in these amazing places, and it sounds amazing with the candles and the snow and the choir behind you. I mean, that sounds absolutely wonderful, doesn't it?
It does.
Let's talk about what you're currently working on. So what's on the table at the moment?
At this very moment, I've gone back to my childhood. I've gone back to music theatre, and I'm loving it. I'm working with Cameron, Cameron.
Right, so he's been on the podcast 4 times.
Right, he's amazing. What a special guy he is. And we've been doing classes for teenagers, adults, and children as well. I've been doing the voice and the music for the classes, and we're doing a pantomime, and I'm going to be the evil villain. I'm Poison Ivy, so I'm really looking forward for everybody booing and hissing me when I go on stage this Christmas.
I always think when there is a pantomime, everybody loves the villain.
Yeah.
I think it's the top job, never mind about being the beautiful princess or the queen. You want to be the evil villain because you get the best costume, I think you get the best lines, and you get the audience.
I've always wanted to be the villain.
Wow.
I said it to Cameron jokingly, and he remembered it. And then when he said, I'm going to do panto and you're the villain, I was like, it's so much fun. And the people I'm working with are just incredible. So much talent. We're having a great time. It's going to be amazing pantomime. I'm very different from singing opera. What a change. Loving it.
So you've basically got young children, teens, adults who really have got no experience of musical theatre singing, and you're coaching them to put this production together?
Well, these are the classes. The panto is just adults.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a teen group as well who are my evil guards. So we're putting together a song with them. Really talented group. Lovely group of people. So mostly adults. We did a show last summer, and that involved all of Cameron's classes, from babies right through to adults. I think you were in that, actually, weren't you? Oh, here you go, you see, you were in that. Yeah, so you know very well what we did. And it's fantastic, isn't it, to see everybody, all different ages, all different backgrounds, different languages. Everyone came together for that show. And I think he's planning to repeat it again this summer.
I think this is the thing, isn't it, about theatre, singing, dance, movement. It doesn't matter what language, how old, how young, you can be whoever you want to be. This is the power of performance, isn't it?
It is. And I think also bringing people together is fantastic. That everybody can share in one objective, regardless of your story. Everybody's there for one reason. It brings people together like nothing else, I think. If you're playing in a band or an orchestra or performing in a show or singing in a choir, there's that special relationship that is unbeatable, really.
The power of music is just incredible. Music to celebrate, music to commiserate. It's everything, we grew up with the music from our parents, and then we develop as we grow up, our teenage years, and we can generally pinpoint, what we were doing and who we were with at that point of music. It always amazes me, you can remember the lyrics of songs from 2 or 3 decades, and you hear that song and you literally go straight into those lyrics. You think, okay, they may not be perfect, but you've probably got 90% of them. So our memories must have an amazing capacity for remembering lyrics of songs more so than information.
Apparently so. I don't know much about this, but a friend of mine, her mother had dementia, and she was unable to recognise her own daughter when she walked in the door, but she would sing all the old hymns and songs from her childhood. She remembered every single line. So there's something in the brain that is triggered by music, whether it's the rhythm or, I don't know, or the memories, like you say. I don't know, but it's fascinating, isn't it? Really
and I think often when people are ill and they can't communicate, but just talking to somebody, reading a book to somebody, it's that connection with voice or sound or music or, as you say, rhythm. It's just phenomenal, the power of music. And I think we all tend to take it for granted a bit. You know, we come home and we'll put the radio on, or we'll put Alexa on, and, as we are now, and have music going. And music is just so amazing for taking you back with a memory, or we use it to create a new memory. It's just phenomenal.
It is. And I think it's a real shame that it's not given as much importance in schools now as it should be. I think it's so important that we maintain musical education in schools, because not only for the emotional and the value, but also for many children who have problems in other areas of learning. They thrive, whether it's dance or drama or music, they thrive. And it's giving all children an opportunity to be equal, and it makes me sad. It makes me very sad how little regard is given to the arts. It's so important, and for children to grow up with that confidence of having been good at something or performing in front of people. I just hope they don't lose out on that, you know.
I mean, that's very true, because I mean, music therapy can do just amazing things, but as you say, it's this connection with other people. If you're singing with a group, whether that's with a choir, or that's with your friends in a karaoke, or whether you're in a ballet class, or you go to tango classes, or you're just getting on down in your local bar, it's that social connection of music, whether that brings in singing or dance. It's just phenomenal.
It is. And back in 2014, I think it was, I started the Madrid International Choir. I started it on a whim. I didn't think it would go anywhere, but it's still going now, which is lovely to know. It's been growing and growing. But the wonderful thing about the choir was seeing people of all different ages. There were some Erasmus students that came and went, but we had retirees in their 70s. We had, I think the youngest was 16. There were people with social and various problems. And when they came to choir, they left them at the door and had a really good time. And it was wonderful to see how much it helped people in their everyday problems. That was a very powerful thing to see that, and the bringing people together to perform music. It's such a lovely thing.
So just before we finish then, Lynette, any words of encouragement of anybody who is thinking, well, I don't think I can sing, but I wouldn't mind having a go. Maybe I'll have something with the teacher, you know, I'll take along a track I like, or the lyrics to a song, and see if I can make something with it. What would you say to people who want to dip their toe into the world of singing?
I'd say, don't think you're going to learn to sing tomorrow. People think they can. People think, oh, I'll just turn up, have a couple of lessons, and I'll be able to sing. That's not going to be how it is. You do need patience. You do need commitment if you really want to learn to sing. It does take a commitment. It's also having a complete confidence in the teacher, but also gaining confidence. So if you really, really don't think you can sing, I think probably the best thing to do would be go do that karaoke and have fun, first of all. And it doesn't matter if you sound brilliant or not, just get out there and do it. The next stage, if you really want to sing, then yes, it's a commitment. You do need to take time, listen, have regular classes, take the time to learn, just like everything else in life, you know.
Can you give classes online?
I've done it. I'm not too keen, because I prefer to teach classical singing. I'm not so much keen on teaching pop singers. I think pop singing you could, but with classical music it's not so easy. I've got a couple of children I teach here who are brilliant, part of the music theatre group. They're brilliant, so I teach them at Cameron's group. But apart from that, I've not been teaching very much at the moment. I'm very new to Valencia, and I live outside Valencia, so I'm finding the venue and getting myself going. But I would probably do presential classes rather than attempt anything online when I get round to teaching again. Yeah.
So basically the moral of the story is enjoy singing in whatever form it is.
Yeah.
Enjoy music and enjoy the emotion, the fun and the celebration of music. And if you do fancy learning to sing, give it a go.
Absolutely.
Give it a go.
I would start by just being with a group of people. Probably is the best start. Karaoke or joining a choir. yeah, that would be the first step.
Lynette, thank you so much for taking us through your career, which I didn't know about at all, which is absolutely fascinating. So I'll get some photographs of you to put with the podcast. Thank you very much for being a guest in the world of singing and music.
Well, thank you, Sheila, and I'll see you in the summer show at Cameron's.
You will. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe on whatever platform you are using. It is free, and if you would like to tell your story, please contact me on allaboutyoupodcast@yahoo.com and let's tell your story.